Detective James Vance sat alone in his pitch-black kitchen, the only light casting harsh shadows across his weathered face coming from his laptop screen. His hands trembled over the keyboard, fingers hovering but refusing to touch. Outside, rain hammered against the windows like desperate fingers clawing to get in. For 6 weeks now, a digital phantom had haunted their small town of Millbrook. Every Monday at precisely 1 a.m., 12 specific people received an email bearing nothing but a numbered list. No subject line. No sender information. No explanation. The emails appeared from nowhere, left no trace, and vanished from servers within minutes. But the pattern was undeniable. By Friday night, one name from that week's list would be dead. The local police called them accidents: a car plunging off a bridge, a gas leak, a heart attack. But James knew better. He had been a detective for 23 years, and his instincts screamed murder with every new tragedy. The list changed weekly, but the victims always shared one thing. They had all been connected to the disastrous Ashford Tower fire 12 years ago. The fire that killed 47 people. The fire that James had helped bury. His phone buzzed on the counter. A text from his partner, Detective Maria Reyes. "You get it yet? I'm on the list this week. Number 11. Starting to think this isn't a prank, partner. You okay?" James didn't respond. He couldn't. Because Maria wasn't just his partner, she was the only person who still believed in him after his divorce, after his drinking, after everything. And now she was marked for death. With a shaking breath, James clicked the email incoming transmission. The reckoning list. Week 7-1. Julian Vance, Mayor, 2. Clara Sterling, Chief of Surgery, Millbrook General, 3. James Vance, Detective, MPD, 4. Marcus Thorne, Defense Attorney, 5. Eleanor Whitmore, Journalist, Millbrook Gazette, 6. Senator Robert Chen, Retired, 7. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, Medical Examiner, 8. Father Thomas Brennan, St. Mary's Church, 9. Grace Park, Real Estate Developer, 10. Arthur Pendleton, Judge, Superior Court, 11. Detective Maria Reyes, MPD, 12. Victor Cross, Fire Chief, Retired. James's blood turned to ice. Number 3. The first name sent a knife twisting through his gut. Julian Vance, his older brother, the charismatic golden child who had become mayor through connections their father had bought. The brother James hadn't spoken to in 5 years after a bitter fight over their mother's will. The brother who had taken everything and given nothing back. And Clara, his ex-fiancée, the love of his life who had walked away when James's drinking spiraled after the fire. She was number 2. Someone was methodically dismantling his entire world. James's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "Welcome to the game, detective. You have until Friday to figure out why you're on the list. But here's a hint. You're not the only one hiding something." He tried to trace the number. It bounced through 17 different international servers before vanishing. Whoever was behind this had resources, military-grade encryption, money, and a terrifyingly personal grudge. James poured himself a glass of whiskey, stared at it for a long moment, then threw the glass against the wall. He needed clarity, not numbness. He opened a secure folder on his laptop, one he'd kept hidden even from Maria. Inside were his personal notes from the Ashford Tower investigation, the file he'd never officially closed, the guilt he'd been carrying like a physical weight for 12 years. He began to read, and the ghosts of the past stirred. 10:00 a.m. Monday, the investigation begins by sunrise. James had made 3 discoveries that turned his world upside down. The first, the victims from the previous 6 weeks weren't random at all. Each one had played a specific role in covering up the truth about Ashford Tower. Week 1. Developer Mark Sullivan, the man who had falsified safety inspection reports to get the building approved. He had fallen from his penthouse balcony. Week 2. Councilwoman Diane Rivers, who had accepted bribes to fast-track the permits. She had suffered a heart attack while swimming alone. Week 3. Structural engineer Harold Kim, who had signed off on the faulty electrical wiring. He was found dead in his car, carbon monoxide poisoning. Week 4. Linda Vasquez, the insurance adjuster who had paid out the claims without investigating. A gas explosion in her kitchen. Week 5. Detective Frank Morrison, James's former partner, the man who had deliberately lost crucial evidence. A suicide that James had always doubted. Week 6. Pastor Michael Grant, who had performed last rites on the victims but had seen the burns that didn't match the official report. A stroke at 47. James ran his hands through his greying hair. 47 victims in the fire. 47 families destroyed. And now, someone was making sure those responsible paid. The second discovery. All the victims had received the list email on Monday, just like the rest of them. But the system didn't choose the victim. The victims chose each other. James found it buried in the metadata of one of the recovered emails, a hidden link that led to a secure voting portal. Every person on the list could cast a vote for who they believed deserved to die that week. The person with the most votes became the target. The system enforced the sentence. But James had never received a voting link. Someone had disabled it on his account. The third discovery was the most disturbing. Julian had been sending the emails. The routing data pointed to his mayoral office's secure server. James stared at his brother's name on the list. Julian was number 1, the most prominent name, the most obvious target. A sitting mayor targeted by a mysterious killer. It made no sense. Unless Julian wasn't the target at all. Unless Julian was the architect. 3 p.m. Monday, the confrontation. James burst into City Hall without knocking, his badge flashing as security tried to stop him. He found Julian in his corner office, windows overlooking the town square, perfectly manicured hands folded on his mahogany desk. James. Julian didn't look surprised. I was wondering when you'd come. Cut the act, Julian. You're sending the emails. Julian's face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes. Was it fear? Guilt? You're accusing your own brother of murder? Not accusing. Knowing. I traced the server. Julian rose slowly, his tall frame silhouetted against the afternoon light. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, measured, the voice of a man who had been practicing this speech for years. 12 years ago, we made a choice, James. All of us. We buried the truth about Ashford Tower because it was easier, because the town needed a quick resolution, because we were all protecting something. You wanted to impress me. Clara wanted to avoid a lawsuit. I wanted to protect my career. Julian walked to the window, his back to James. But there was something else you never knew. The fire wasn't an accident. James felt the floor drop out from under him. What are you saying? The investigation was compromised from the start because the arsonist was never caught. The real arsonist was someone who walked free, someone with connections, someone who paid people to keep quiet. Julian turned, his face hollow. That arsonist is still alive, James. And they've spent the last 12 years building this list, watching us, waiting. I didn't create the system, I just found a way to survive it. Julian pulled up a file on his computer, a dossier with photos, financial records, and witness statements. Every week, the 12 of us vote. The person with the most votes dies. It's a sick game, but it's the only way to keep the rest of us alive. The system demands balance. 1 death per week, no more, no less. If we don't comply, the system kills 3 random people from the list instead. James read the file in horror. Victor Cross, the retired fire chief. James had always thought he was a victim of circumstance, a man who had made mistakes under pressure. But the file showed something different. Victor had been the one who engineered the cover-up. He had been the arsonist's inside man. Victor died last week, James said slowly. But that doesn't make sense. If he was the arsonist's partner, why would the arsonist kill him? Because Victor was becoming a liability. He was threatening to go public. The arsonist used the system to eliminate him. Julian's voice dropped. There's only one person who could have pulled this off, James. Someone with money, power, and a personal connection to every single person on that list. Someone who was there the night of the fire. Who? Julian opened a final file. James's heart stopped. Identity. Classified name. Amara Singh relation. Surviving daughter of the Ashford Tower night watchman. James remembered her now. The distraught teenager who had screamed at the press conference, who had called them all murderers. She had been dismissed as hysterical, a grieving child who didn't understand the complexities of the legal system. They had paid her off, a quiet settlement that had made her go away. But Amara hadn't gone away. She had been waiting, building her resources, biding her time. She's the one behind this, James whispered. She's been orchestrating everything. Not just her, Julian said grimly. She's been working with someone else. Someone inside the system. Someone who has access to all of us. 08:00 p.m. Monday, the revelation. James left City Hall in a daze, his world crumbling around him. Everything he'd believed was a lie. The fire, the investigation, the cover-up. All of it had been engineered by people in power to protect their interests while the victims' families suffered in silence. He drove to Clara's house, needing answers. She lived in a modest Victorian on the edge of town, a far cry from the mansion she could have afforded. She had always been different, more grounded than the others. Maybe that was why James had loved her. Clara opened the door before he could knock, as if she'd been expecting him. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usually perfect hair dishevelled. "It's happening again, isn't it?" she said. "The list. The deaths." James stepped inside and closed the door. "You're on the list, Clara. Number 2. You know what that means. I know what the system does. I received a vote link today." She led him to her living room, where a laptop sat open on the coffee table. "They're all voting. Julian is protecting himself. Marcus is trying to shift the target. Even Maria, she voted." James looked at the screen. There it was, a simple interface showing the current vote totals. 4 people had already voted for him. The leading target was Marcus Thorne, with 7 votes. But there was something wrong. "You voted too," James said, noticing Clara's name on the list of participants. "You voted for Julian." Clara's face twisted with anger. "He deserves it. He's the one who started all of this. The cover-up, the bribes, the silence. He was the mastermind behind everything. And now he's using us as pawns to keep himself alive." James's head was spinning. "Clara, listen to me. Amara Singh is behind this. She's the one who created the system. She's using the list to exact her revenge, and Julian is helping her." "Julian? Helping her?" Clara laughed bitterly. "Julian is the one who paid Amara off. He's been funding her for years, pretending to be her benefactor while using her vendetta to eliminate his enemies. He's been playing both sides from the beginning. It hit James like a physical blow. His brother, the golden child, the politician everyone admired, had been pulling the strings all along. "We need to stop him," James said. "We need to expose the truth." "Expose it to whom?" Clara asked. "Everyone on this list is complicit. The police are compromised. The courts are corrupt. The only way out is to play the game. You're suggesting we keep participating in this madness? I'm suggesting we survive long enough to find another way." Clara grabbed his hands. "James, I know you still have feelings for me. I know you've never fully let go. But right now, I need you to think clearly. We're both on that list. If we don't act, one of us could be next." James pulled away, his mind racing. "I need to find Amara. She's the only one who knows the full truth. She's not going to help you. She's been waiting for this for 12 years. Then I'll make her help me. I'll show her that I want to make things right." Clara studied him for a long moment, something unreadable in her eyes. "You don't know what you're getting into, James. She's been planning this for half her life. She has resources and connections you can't even imagine. Then I'll use my own connections." James turned to leave, then paused at the door. "I know you voted for Marcus, Clara, but there's something you're not telling me. Who else is helping Amara? Who's the inside person?" Clara's face paled. She said nothing. 11 p.m., Monday, the breaking point. James sat in his car outside Clara's house, watching the rain streak down his windshield. His phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. "You want to find Amara Singh? She's been waiting for you to ask the right question, detective. Here's a hint. The night watchman's daughter has been working at the Millbrook Gazette for the past 3 years, under a different name. Ask Eleanor Whitmore who her star intern is." Eleanor Whitmore. James had known her for years. She was a journalist who had covered the Ashford Tower fire extensively. She had been one of the few who had questioned the official narrative. James sped toward the Gazette office, his tires screeching on the wet pavement. The building was dark, but a single light glowed on the 3rd floor. He found Eleanor at her desk, surrounded by stacks of old case files. She looked up as he entered, her face a mask of exhaustion. "Detective Vance. I was wondering when you'd show up." "Amara Singh," James said without preamble. "You've been protecting her." Eleanor's expression didn't change. "She's not the enemy, James. She's the only one who has the complete picture." "The complete picture?" "She's been orchestrating murders." "Murders?" Eleanor laughed bitterly. "Every single person on that list committed murder long before Amara ever came to them. They killed 47 people through negligence, through greed, through willful ignorance. Amara just made sure they faced justice." James slammed his hand on the desk. "This isn't justice. This is slaughter. Then what would you call what you did?" Eleanor's voice was cold. "You knew the investigation was flawed. You knew people were covering up the truth. You knew the families deserved answers. And what did you do? You took the promotion your brother offered, you closed the case, and you spent the next decade pretending the fire was an accident. The accusation was like acid in his veins. I made a mistake. I've been living with that guilt for 12 years. Guilt doesn't bring back the dead, James. Justice does." Eleanor handed him a file. "Read this. Then tell me Amara is the monster." James opened the file. Inside were police reports, witness testimonies, and forensic evidence that had never been made public. The fire hadn't been an accident or a simple act of arson. It had been deliberately set by the building's owner, a man named Vincent Mercer, to collect insurance money. Mercer had died in the fire himself, but not before setting the blaze that killed 46 others. But there was more. The file showed that Julian had been the one who convinced everyone to bury the truth. He had paid off witnesses, destroyed evidence, and manipulated the investigation to protect Mercer's reputation, because Mercer had been Julian's biggest political donor. James's brother hadn't just been covering up an accident. He had been aiding a murderer. Amora's father was the night watchman, Eleanor said softly. He tried to stop Mercer. He saved 6 people before the flames got him. Mercer killed him. And Julian made sure Mercer died a hero instead of a murderer. James felt sick. How do you know all this? Eleanor opened her desk drawer and pulled out a gun. Because I've been Amora's collaborator from the beginning. I helped her build the system. I helped her find every person who was complicit. Eleanor, no. I'm not going to shoot you, James. She laid the gun on the desk. I'm giving you a choice. You can take this file to the authorities, and maybe they'll believe you. Or you can help Amora finish what she started and give those 47 families the justice they deserve. James stared at the gun. If Julian is the mastermind, why is he on the list? Because Amora wants him to suffer. She wants him to feel what her father felt, the fear, the helplessness, the betrayal. She wants him to realize that his own brother could be the one to bring him down. And what about you? What about your part in all of this? Eleanor smiled sadly. I have my own sins to answer for. I wrote the story that buried the truth. I accepted Julian's money to keep quiet. Amora is helping me atone. She picked up her phone and showed James a live video feed. It was a room filled with computers and monitors, and in the center stood a young woman with dark hair and fierce eyes, Amora Singh. Eleanor! Amora's voice crackled through the speaker. Who's that with you? Detective James Vance, Eleanor said. He knows everything. Amora's expression shifted from surprise to cold calculation. Detective Vance, I've been expecting you. I have a proposal for you. James stepped closer to the phone. I'm listening. The system has been running for 7 weeks. 6 people are dead. But you're the first person on the list who's been willing to find me. That tells me you might be different. Amora's eyes pierced through the screen. I know everything about you, James. I know you were the one who tried to reopen the investigation 3 years ago. I know you fought with your brother about it. I know you've been carrying the guilt for all this time. That doesn't change what you've been doing. People are dead. People were already dead. Detective. 47 people burned to death because of greed and corruption. I'm just making sure that the people responsible face consequences. Amora leaned closer to the camera. But I know you want to make things right. That's why I'm giving you a chance. A chance to do what? To help me. The system isn't complete. There's still one major player who hasn't been brought to justice. Vincent Mercer's business partner, a woman named Grace Park. She's on the list this week. She's been running a real estate empire using the money she got from Mercer's insurance payouts. She's responsible for every single death, and she's been getting away with it for 12 years. Grace Park. James had interviewed her years ago, an elegant woman in her 60s who had expressed her condolences with practiced ease. She had seemed genuinely upset about the fire, but the file showed otherwise. She had been the one who convinced Mercer to set the blaze in the first place. She needs to pay, James, Amora said. Help me make that happen, and I'll give you everything you need to expose Julian. I'll give you the evidence that will put him away for the rest of his life. You'll finally get the justice you've been seeking. And if I refuse, then the system continues. You'll be voted off eventually. Your brother, Clara, Maria. They'll all be eliminated one by one until the list is complete. You can't stop the system, James. You can only choose which side you're on. 2 a.m. Tuesday, the visitor James left Eleanor's office in a daze, the file clutched under his arm like a lifeline. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and gleaming under the streetlights. He drove home on autopilot, his mind churning with everything he'd learned. When he pulled into his driveway, he noticed a figure sitting on his front steps. It was Maria Reyes. "James," she said, rising to meet him. "We need to talk. Maria, you shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Nowhere is safe." Her eyes were haunted. "I've been looking into this case on my own, and I found something. Something you need to see." She handed him a folder. Inside were transcripts of phone calls, financial records, and surveillance photos. Maria had been investigating everyone on the list, and she had uncovered a connection none of them had seen. "Clara has been working with Grace Park," Maria said. "They've been business partners for years, laundering money through the hospital. Clara was never just a doctor. She was a key player in the whole scheme." James's heart stopped. Clara, the woman he had loved, the woman he had trusted above everyone, was still protecting the people responsible for the fire. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "I'm sure. I found emails, James. Clara's been giving Grace Park information about the list. She's been feeding her votes, helping her manipulate the system from the inside. But Clara's on the list too. Why would she help someone who could kill her? Because Grace Park is the real power behind the operation. She's been funding the system, paying off Amara, and using the list to eliminate her own rivals. Clara is her inside woman. She's been voting exactly the way Grace wants, and she's been keeping Grace safe from suspicion." James's phone buzzed again. Another text. "Your partner is becoming a liability. You need to decide how far you're willing to go to protect the truth." He ignored it. "We need to go to the authorities." Maria shook her head. "The authorities are part of the problem. Everyone in this town is either complicit or looking the other way. The only way to stop this is to take matters into our own hands." "What are you suggesting?" "We find Amara. We prove that the system exists. We expose everyone involved." Maria's eyes blazed with determination. "But we have to move fast. Grace Park knows that people are closing in. She's going to accelerate the timeline." James looked at the file in his hands, the evidence Eleanor had given him, the information Maria had uncovered, and the weight of 12 years of guilt. "I need to see Clara," he said. "I need to hear it from her myself." Maria grabbed his arm. "James, if you go to her, you'll be walking into a trap. Clara's not the person you think she is. If she's been working with Grace Park, then she might know where Amara is. I need that information. Then let me come with you." "No." James pulled away. "If something happens to me, I need someone to continue the investigation. Stay here, stay safe, and don't trust anyone." 8 a.m. Tuesday, the confrontation at Millbrook. General James found Clara at the hospital, sitting in her office with stacks of paperwork around her. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her usually pristine scrubs wrinkled and stained. "You've been busy," he said, closing the door behind him. "I've been trying to stay ahead of the game." Clara didn't look up from her files. "It's getting harder. I know about Grace Park." Clara's hand froze on a paper. When she looked up, her eyes were wary. What do you think you know? I know you've been working with her. I know you've been helping her manipulate the system. I know you're not the victim you're pretending to be." Clara rose slowly, her face a mask of controlled anger. "You don't understand anything, James. You never did. Then explain it to me." She walked to the window, staring out at the rain-soaked city. 12 years ago, I was a young doctor who wanted to make a difference. Grace Park offered me a chance to save lives, real lives, not just the ones that got lost in bureaucracy. She funded the hospital, paid for the research, and in return, I kept quiet about the fire. Kept quiet about a crime? It wasn't a crime to me at the time. It was a tragedy that needed to be handled, and Grace was willing to compensate the victims' families handsomely. I thought I was doing the right thing. And now I know I was a fool. Clara turned to face him, her eyes glistening with tears. Grace never cared about the victims. She cared about protecting her empire. And when Amara started the system, Grace saw an opportunity to eliminate her rivals while positioning herself as the one in control. "Then help me stop her," James pleaded. "Help me expose the truth. I can't. Grace has people everywhere. If I cooperate, my son—" "You have a son." Clara's face crumpled. "I never told you because I was afraid. His name is Daniel. He's 8 years old. Grace has been watching him for years, making sure I stay in line. If I betray her, he dies." James felt the ground shift beneath him. "Where is he? Where's Daniel?" "He's with a nanny at my house. The house is surrounded by Grace's security. I can't even leave without permission." James's mind raced. "We can get him out. We can hire people to. There's no time." Clara grabbed his hands. "Grace is planning something big. She's going to accelerate the system and eliminate everyone on the list at once. She's already set the bombs." "Bombs!" "She has explosives planted in key locations around the town. City Hall, the hospital, the police station. She's going to detonate them on Friday night and blame it on the system. Everyone will die, and she'll walk away clean." James felt like he was drowning. "We need to stop her. We need to save Daniel first." Clara's eyes locked with his. "Please, James. I know I've made terrible choices. I know I've hurt you. But my son is innocent. I can't let him die because of my mistakes." James pulled out his phone. "I know people who can help." 10 a.m. Tuesday, the planned James assembled a small team in Maria's apartment. Maria, Eleanor, and a former military contact named Sergei who had experience with extraction operations. Clara had provided the layout of her house and the security schedule. The plan was simple. Sergei would lead a team to extract Daniel, while James and Maria confronted Grace Park at her office. Eleanor would provide media coverage and live-stream everything to ensure Grace couldn't stage a cover-up. "We need to move fast," Sergei said. "Grace's security team rotates every 6 hours. We have a window at midnight tonight." James nodded. "We'll hit them simultaneously. At midnight, Sergei extracts Daniel. Maria and I go to Grace's office. Eleanor starts the broadcast. Everyone understands the risks." Maria asked, "If this goes wrong, we're all dead." No one hesitated. James pulled Clara aside, his voice low. "After we rescue Daniel, you're going to cooperate with the authorities. You're going to testify against Grace and Julian and everyone else who covered up the fire." "I will," Clara promised. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." James studied her for a long moment, searching for any sign of deception. "I want to believe you." "You can. I've made so many mistakes, James. But I won't make any more. 11:45 p.m., Tuesday. The infiltration. James and Maria crouched in the shadows outside Grace Park's office building, a sleek glass tower in the heart of the city. Security was heavy, armed guards at every entrance, cameras covering every angle. Sergei's team is in position, Maria whispered. 5 minutes to go. James's heart pounded in his chest. He'd been in dangerous situations before, but never like this, never with so much at stake. Remember, he said, we're looking for evidence. Anything that connects Grace to the system, to the fire, to the bombs. And we need to find her before she can detonate anything. Maria nodded. I'll take the East Wing. You take the West. We meet in the middle. Be careful. Always. They moved through the darkness like ghosts, avoiding patrols and disabling cameras. James found the West Wing empty. Grace had obviously cleared out her important documents before the operation. But in her private office, he found something else, a hidden safe behind a painting. He cracked it open with a combination Maria had provided. Grace's birthday, of all things. Inside were files. Hundreds of files. Evidence of every crime Grace had ever committed, including the Ashford Tower fire, the cover-up, and her involvement with the system. James's phone buzzed. It was Sergei. Extraction successful. Daniel is safe. Relief flooded through him. Get him to the safe house. We're on our way. He gathered the files and moved toward the meeting point. But when he reached the corridor, Maria was waiting for him, and she wasn't alone. Grace Park stood beside her, a gun aimed at James's chest. "Detective Vance," Grace said smoothly, "I was hoping you'd make an appearance." Maria's face was apologetic. "I'm sorry, James. I had no choice. She's been watching me for weeks. She threatened my family." "Your family?" James's voice was cold. "You betrayed me for your family?" "People do desperate things when they're afraid," Grace said. Maria made a smart decision. "You're not going to get out of this alive." James looked at the files in his hands. "You won't get away with this. Who's going to stop me? You're dead, your partner is dead, and the rest of the list will be eliminated within the week. I'll be the sole survivor of the system, and I'll use that to control the town for generations." "You're insane." "I'm pragmatic." Grace nodded at Maria. "Kill him." Maria raised her gun, her hands trembling. "I can't do this." "Then I'll do it myself." Grace raised her own weapon, but before she could fire, a shot rang out from the shadows. Grace's gun flew from her hand as she stumbled backward. James looked up to see Clara stepping out of the darkness, a smoking pistol in her hand. "Nobody threatens my family," Clara said coldly. "Nobody threatens my son." 12:05 a.m., Wednesday, the escaped James watched as Clara stood over Grace Park, her face a mask of cold fury. Grace's security guards were running toward the office, but they couldn't shoot without risking their employer. "Drop the weapons," James shouted. "We have all the evidence. Everyone involved is going down." Grace laughed weakly from the floor. "You think a few files are going to stop me? My lawyers will tear you apart. Not if the broadcast goes live." James looked at Maria. "Start the recording." Maria pulled out a phone and pressed a button. Eleanor's voice crackled through the speaker. "I'm live on every major network. The whole world is watching, Grace. It's over." Grace's face contorted with rage. "You think this is over? You think you've won? There are bombs, detective. Bombs I planted all over this city. If I don't give the signal every 6 hours, they detonate. and I'm the only one who knows the codes. James felt the air leave his lungs. What do you want? I want to walk out of here. I want my freedom. And I want everyone on that list dead by Friday night. Grace's eyes glittered with madness. If you don't comply, I'll blow this entire town to rubble. You're bluffing, Maria said. Am I? Grace smiled. Check the basement of the police station. There's a device under the evidence locker. I've had it there for years. James's stomach dropped. He knew the evidence locker. He'd been in it 1,000 times. The idea that a bomb had been sitting under their feet for years was horrifying. Even if you have bombs, Clara said, we can disarm them. We have experts. Experts who won't find the bombs without the codes, Grace countered. And I'm the only one who has them. 6 a.m., Wednesday, the deadline. James and his team sequestered themselves in a safe house, surrounded by evidence and a ticking clock. Grace had been taken into custody, but she refused to give up the detonation codes. The bombs were scheduled to go off in 72 hours. I need to talk to Julian, James said. He might know the codes. Why would Julian help us? Maria asked. He's as guilty as Grace. Because he's also on the list. If the bombs go off, he dies too. They found Julian at his mansion, surrounded by bodyguards and heavily fortified. He listened to James's plea with a blank expression. You want me to help you stop the bombs, Julian said slowly. After everything I've done, I want you to help me save innocent lives. James's voice was hard. You may not care about the families, but you care about yourself. And if Grace detonates those bombs, you're dead too. Julian stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You really have no idea, do you? Grace Park isn't the mastermind. She's a pawn. Julian leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. The person who created the system, who planted the bombs, who planned everything from the beginning, it wasn't Grace. It was never Grace. Who was it, then? Julian looked at James with something like pity. It was Clara, James. It was always Clara. 8 a.m., Wednesday, the deeper truth. James's world shattered. He remembered everything. Clara's access to the hospital, her medical knowledge, her ability to manipulate people. He remembered how she had always been the one to calm everyone down, to find solutions, to make the hard decisions. He remembered the fire, and how Clara had been one of the first on the scene. How she had checked the bodies and declared it an accident. How she had convinced everyone to move on. And he remembered how she had been playing him from the beginning, using their shared history to get close to him, to learn his secrets, to find out what he knew. Clara is the arsonist, Julian said. She set the fire 12 years ago because Grace Park promised to fund her career. She's been working with Grace ever since, building the system, planting the bombs. She's the mastermind behind everything. No, James breathed. That's not possible. She's not capable of. She's more capable than you know. Julian pulled up a file on his computer. I've been investigating her for years. I have evidence that she was the one who created the voting system, who hacked the emails, who orchestrated every death on that list. She made herself look like a victim while directing the entire operation from the shadows. James looked at the file, and the evidence was irrefutable. Clara's fingerprints were on the code. Her IP address was linked to the emails. Her bank accounts showed payments to the people who had helped build the system. It was revenge, Julian said. Clara's father died in the fire. He was one of the victims. She was seeking justice, but she got corrupted along the way. Her father was a victim? James asked. That doesn't make sense. She was working with Grace Park, who caused the fire. Clara didn't know that at first. She thought the fire was an accident, and she wanted to help the victims. But when she found out the truth, she realized she'd been working with the enemy. The guilt consumed her, and instead of turning Grace in, she decided to take matters into her own hands. James felt sick. She's been manipulating everyone. Grace, me, the whole town. Everyone except me, Julian said. I figured out her game a long time ago. But she had leverage over me, so I had to play along. She threatened to expose my involvement in the cover-up unless I helped her. That's why I'm still on the list. She wants to keep me close. So Clara is the one who's been sending the emails? Not just sending them, creating them, building the system. She used Amara Singh as a front, a figurehead, to divert suspicion from herself. Amara has been helping her, but Clara is the real architect. James's phone buzzed with a text from Clara. I know you know, James. Come to the hospital. We need to talk. He should have gone to the authorities. He should have turned her in. But something held him back, a desperate need to understand, to hear it from her own lips. He left Julian's mansion, promising to return with reinforcements. But instead, he drove straight to the hospital point 10:00 a.m. Wednesday, the final confrontation. Clara was waiting for him in her office, the same office where they'd had their emotional conversation just days before. But now the room felt different, cold, sterile, dangerous. You're not here to kill me, are you? James asked, his voice steady. I never wanted to kill you, James. I wanted to save you. Clara's eyes were sad. You were the only one who ever treated me like a person, the only one who showed me kindness. And I couldn't let you die in the fire. Then why did you create the system? Why did you kill all those people? Because they deserved it. Clara's voice hardened. Every single person on that list was responsible for my father's death. They covered up the truth. They accepted bribes. They built careers on the ashes of the victims. I was giving them a taste of their own medicine. By murdering them, by making their families suffer the way you suffered. Sometimes justice requires sacrifice. Clara stepped closer to him. I know you don't understand. I know you think I'm a monster. But I did everything to protect the people I love, including you. Then stop this madness, James pleaded. Give me the detonation codes. Let the system die. It's already dead. Clara smiled. I deactivated the bombs last night. Grace was wrong. She never had any real control. I'm the one who has the codes. James stared at her in shock. Why would you do that? Because I realized that revenge is a hollow victory. I destroyed my soul trying to get justice for my father, and in the process, I became the thing I hated most. Clara pulled out a folder and handed it to him. This is everything. All the evidence. All the confessions. Every crime committed by everyone on the list, including myself. I'm ready to face the consequences. James opened the folder, and his heart stopped. Inside were transcripts, recordings, and signed statements from everyone involved in the Ashford Tower cover-up. But there was something else, a birth certificate. The night watchman's daughter, Clara said. That's me, James. Amara Singh is a fabrication. I created her as a front. The real night watchman's daughter died in the fire. I've been using her identity to hide my involvement. James shook his head in disbelief. Your father was the night watchman? That means you set the fire to get justice for your father, but you were working with the people who killed him. I didn't set the fire, James. I was there when it happened. I was in the building that night. Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I went to see my father at work. I had no idea about the insurance scam, no idea that the building was going to burn. When the fire started, I tried to save people. I pulled my father out of the flames, but it was too late. He died in my arms." "Then why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because I was terrified. I was a teenager. I didn't know what to do. And then the investigation started, and everyone lied, and I realized that no one was going to help me. So I decided to help myself." "You've been planning this for 12 years?" 15 years, actually. I started the preparations soon after the fire. I've been patient, waiting for the right moment, making sure every detail was perfect." Clara's voice was calm, measured. "And when I finally had everything in place, the system began to work. People were dying, and I was the one in control." James's mind was racing, trying to process everything. "You killed your own father's murderers, but you also killed innocent people, people who weren't involved in the cover-up." "The system never killed innocent people," Clara said firmly. "Every victim was guilty of something. The system was designed to find the truth, to expose the corruption. It just took a little longer than expected." 12 p.m., Wednesday, the choice James stood at a crossroads. He had evidence that would put Clara away for life. He had the authority to arrest her on the spot. But he also had a growing understanding of her pain, a pain he shared. "If you're willing to give up your revenge," James said, "then help me bring everyone else to justice. Help me expose the truth about the fire. And I'll see if I can get you a reduced sentence." Clara nodded slowly. "I'll do it. I'll cooperate with the investigation. But there's one thing you need to know before I do." "What?" Clara pulled out her phone and showed him a video. It was a recording of Julian confessing to everything: the bribes, the cover-up, his role in the system. "I recorded this yesterday," Clara said. "I knew you'd need it. Julian is more dangerous than you realize. He's been planning his own escape. He's set up a network of allies who will help him flee the country if the investigation gets too close. Then we need to act fast." James grabbed his phone and called Maria. "We're going to take everyone down. The mayor, the judge, the doctors, the lawyers, everyone who was involved in the Ashford Tower cover-up. And we're going to do it before the system claims any more victims." 3 p.m., Wednesday, the sweep the arrests happened in waves. Within hours, most of the list had been taken into custody. James watched as his brother Julian was handcuffed and led away in the middle of a press conference, the truth finally exposed to the world. Maria coordinated with the FBI, who had been investigating the Ashford Tower fire for years. The evidence Clara had provided was enough to bring everyone involved to justice. James found himself in a quiet room with Clara, the two of them alone for the first time since the revelation. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for helping us end this. I didn't do it for you, James. I did it for myself. I need to face the consequences of my actions. Maybe we can face them together." Clara smiled, a sad, broken smile. "I'm not the same person you fell in love with, James. I've done terrible. Maybe so. But I'm not the same person either. We've both changed. We've both been broken." James reached out and took her hand. "I don't know what the future holds for either of us, but I know that we can face it together." 11:58 p.m., Friday. The renewed threat James stood in the warehouse where the system had been hosted, surrounded by humming servers and blinking lights. Maria stood beside him, her face pale. "The system's backups have been activated," she said. "Someone has been maintaining them behind our backs. The list has been reinstated, and the voting is restarting. We're all targets again. James stared at the screen. A new list had appeared. 1. James Vance 2. Maria Reyes 3. Clara Sterling 4. Julian Vance 5. Marcus Thorne 6. Eleanor Whitmore 7. Grace Park, the system is still running, he whispered. Even now, with everyone arrested, it's still running. It's automated, Maria said. Whoever set it up made sure it would continue no matter what. The only way to stop it is to destroy the servers. Then we destroy them. But before they could act, a message appeared on the screen. Congratulations, James. You've survived the first phase. The system has chosen you to be the next master. Will you accept the responsibility, or will you let the list continue to claim victims? James looked at Maria, his face grim. The system wants to turn me into a killer. Are you going to do it? Never. He reached for a sledgehammer and swung at the nearest server. Sparks flew as the machine shattered. Maria joined him, smashing one server after another. But then James saw a message on the remaining screen. You can destroy the servers, but you can't stop the truth. Everyone involved in the Ashford Tower cover-up will be exposed. It's only a matter of time. James realized the system wasn't the enemy. The enemy was the truth, and the truth would always find a way to come out. Midnight, the aftermath. James stood on the roof of the warehouse, watching the city skyline. In the distance, the hospital where Clara had worked was still standing. Julian's mansion was silent. Grace's office building was dark. The system was dead, but James knew that the memories of what had happened would never fade. Maria joined him, wrapping her arms around herself in the cold night air. It's over. Not quite. James pointed at the sky, where a drone was hovering. Someone's still watching. The drone descended and landed on the roof, revealing a small package. James opened it to find a note and a flash drive. The note was signed, Amara Singh. James plugged the flash drive into his phone. A video began to play. Welcome to the second phase of the game. The system is dead, but the reckoning has only just begun. The truth about Ashford Tower will be revealed, and you're going to help me make sure everyone sees it. Don't worry about the bombs, James. I have a feeling you'll do the right thing when the time comes. I'll be watching. Sincerely, Amara. James stared at the screen as the video ended. The air felt heavy with possibilities. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning.